All right. Good evening, brothers and sisters. Am I on? Okay, good. Okay, well, we just have some slight technical difficulties to begin with, but we're just going to keep moving. Good evening, brothers and sisters. My name is Nova Kafele, and I'd like to introduce our dear sister with warm welcome, and she's a beautiful sister, and we're glad that she's here gracing our Nu Khemit Rebirth radio waves, and with no further ado, I'd like to bring Dr. Yaffa Bey forward to speak to you tonight regarding the American Empire restoration. Sister Yaffa, are you there?
Yes, I am. Can you hear me? I had one well of a time getting through this evening. Can you hear me? I mean, the line was like busy.
Yes, you have a lot of listeners tonight, sister. We want to thank you for being here.
Oh, is that what it was? Okay.
Yeah.
I'm trying to get in for the longest.
All right, it's okay. We're going to get into the groove. It's all right. We are.
Okay, give me 1 second here, because there are people saying that they can't even find this link.
Okay.
This evening. I do recall where we left off. First of all, I want to say I appreciate everyone coming in to listen in. Hopefully, I will be able to give you some enlightenment or clarity on some sort of concept. I do recall where we left off last Thursday. At this time, I'm still attempting to determine whether or not I'm going to do this show every Thursday night, or if I'm only going to do it the last Thursday of every month. I have yet to make that determination. I guess it just depends on, how things go. I don't want to be out here by myself every Thursday because I have other things to do. If people want to listen, then I will share, but if not, then I'm going to keep doing me. At any rate, one of the things I was trying to bring out to everyone's attention, and for those that missed the prior show, absolve me for bringing you in on the tail end of something that you may not even be knowing where we are. What I was trying to come around to was how the Roman Catholic Church is oppressing everyone, and how a lot of the oppression began with the Europeans that ran here and everywhere else around the world, and many people that were banished and deported around the world. So what people want to comprehend is that the individuals that came here seeking solace and found us here and acquired solace through us, they forgot why they left Europe and what they were running from in the first place. Now, someone was bringing to my attention, and I don't recall on what show it was, or maybe it was this one, that I think it was the one I did with Brother Taj. Speaking of which, someone else contacted me and said that people were out on another show being very disrespectful and attempting to mock me, and that people had been posting on Facebook that Brother Taj and I are not honoring Noble Drew Ali or something to this effect. When it comes to me, I'm not attempting to honor any man. That's just me. I am respecting all of the information and insight that has been placed out there by all of the scholars that predated me and you and everyone else that's walking the earth today, and the scholars that are walking at this time. And there's a whole string and slew of them. And in my personal opinion, Taj is one of the scholars, and I am really about fed up with the number of people that are, in my personal observation and estimation, being very disrespectful when it comes to the brother, because if anybody honors Noble Drew Ali, it's Taj. You cannot go anywhere in the world and listen to this brother speak, and one of the first things out of his mouth, and a constant thing out of his mouth, is Noble Drew Ali. Almost everything he says stands on Noble Drew Ali, or is in support of Noble Drew Ali, or to validate Noble Drew Ali. So I think anybody that says that he doesn't respect Noble Drew Ali is probably an agent provocateur, whoever this individual is, because if you listen to this brother speak, he, amongst more people than I have ever heard, speaks more to that man than anyone else. So if that's what you hear, is disrespect from Noble Drew Ali. When you listen to Taj, then you're someone that cannot hear, or you hear and are not listening. And that's all I have to say about that, because that is not a disrespectful brother of anyone. And we have multiple scholars, and Taj is one of them. We've had so many people that have learned under Taj. They got introduced and got on the path of enlightenment through Brother Taj, and they do what so many people do all the time. They become disrespectful and start acting like they don't remember where they learned from. I've seen people do that with Taj. I've seen people do that with Panic. I've seen people do that with Phil Valentine. I've seen people do that with Bobby Hemmett. I've seen people do that with Valera. I've seen people with a string of scholars that it was great to listen to them when they had something to say that you wanted to hear, but then when you did what a student is supposed to do, which is you are supposed to surpass your teacher. If you do not surpass the individual that's giving you enlightenment, you're not being a very good student. That's first. So I want to say this to the people. Learn what you can learn from people that are there to give you information. No one has to know everything. No one is required to know everything. We're all here on a road to enlightenment and on a journey to find our way to liberation. Now, some of everyone is going to be able to help you on your path. If you're a good listener, as quiet as it's kept, the Ku Klux Klan may be able to say something that will help you get there. If you don't know how to get insight, even from a drunk that's homeless on the corner, everybody knows something that will be helpful to you. No one is right about everything, and no one is wrong about everything. And no one walking the earth today knows everything there is to know, because if they knew everything there is to know, either they wouldn't be here or they'd fix this mess. So I'm a little frustrated with the dissension amongst what people call the cognizant, awake, and aware community. We are beginning to look like a joke to the world, in my opinion, because we have a very difficult time learning how to be respectful of one another and how to disagree with one another without being disagreeable. You don't have to agree with everything anyone says. You don't have to believe or buy into everything that anyone says. You do need to learn how to hear people out and see if anything they say is something that will be helpful to you. Anything else that they're saying that's not helpful to you, you chew on that and go, okay, well, I hear that. I'm not feeling that at this time. I'm not buying that at this time, but it's food for thought. Maybe I need to look into it and research it and see what's going on with it and leave it there and drop it there. But all of these public forums for the whole world to see with this discord and all these disagreements, that needs to cease. And if it is not going to cease, we have no right and no business whatsoever trying to resurrect the Moorish Empire, the American Empire, the Mexican Empire, or the nigger Empire, or call it whatever you want to call it. We are not ready and we are not fit if we cannot do better as a people. And if that's the way we're going to continue to behave, then we need to stay under the oppressor's yoke until we grow up as a people. Now, having said that, and I'm sure I just pissed off half the people in the chat room and on the phone and everything else, but it needed to be said because we're at a point where we are arguing and bickering about the ridiculous things that are getting us nowhere fast. Now, back to the whole point of the yoke of the Christian empire. The whole objective with the Roman Catholic Church, in Rome, they started out, now, once the sisters were dethroned under the matriarchy and, what is it they used to call the sisters? I can't think of it off the top of my head. Once the sisters were dethroned and these European males wound up taking over with their animosity toward women, because this whole thing really started out as a hatred of women, and then they used melanin richness to perpetuate the lie and keep the game going. It seemed like it's about racism and color, which is what Taj keeps trying to explain to people. It's really not about racism and color. It's about control and control freaks. One of the things that a lot of these people did to control or stay in control, they started out tormenting and torturing people that look like them, that disagree with them and their control freak agenda. And a lot of that control agenda had to do with, we want your children because they're child molesters by nature. You want your boys in particular because they're pederasts by nature, so forth and so on. These individuals were tortured and tormented. They scattered around the world to the four winds, or were banished around the world to the four winds to get away from the oppressive yoke of the individuals that did not know how to respect the liberal thinking processes and free of others. Everyone has the right to be what they want to be, think how they want to think, and do their own thing. Now, once they got here, the people that were running, I can't speak for the rest of the world, I'm going to say here. Once they got here, the people that were running ran into our communities, as I've said multiple times before, where they found solace, intelligence, respect amongst the people, which we don't seem to have anymore because we're so thoroughly infected. And the oppressors that they were running from ran into our communities to retrieve them, and they had to damage us to retrieve these people. So now that they have villainized us to the world, which is what they did back in the day. For example, Europeans had a problem with this Boston Tea Party and the tea taxes. We could care less about their tea and tea taxes. We weren't into it. But when they had this whole tea tax rebellion that they called the Boston Tea Party, Europeans that were dressed like melanin-rich people or dressed like autochthonous Americans ran up and threw all this tea overboard, and all people could say is, well, we saw Indians running away. Well, that's a bunch of bull. There's no reason why the autochthons would have had to do that. To this very day, Europeans do things that our people are perpetually blamed for that we did not do and could not have done. However, because we've been villainized, the people that found solace with us forgot who we were, forgot our role in the instrumentation of their liberation, and based on that forgetting, those individuals bought into their oppressors' party line of, hey, you're superior because you're white. Because at one point they saw poor, because remember, we were not poor prior to their arrival, they saw poor melanin-rich people and poor pale-complexion so-called white people beginning to unify for liberation, and they had to stop that. And the best way to stop that was to create dissension by using a color code, color scheme, color game, and call it racism. But racism is a fraud. Individuals are not racist. The system is racist. And the system's racism is built in. It's a massive corporate way of perpetuating a concept called shunning. S-H-U-N-N-I-N-G. It's all about trying to exclude someone out and make someone not feel a part of, and they do it using the system to do so. The individuals are not racist. If you run into individuals that behave badly, you call them out on their bad behavior. Now, the Roman Catholic Church, their whole objective, and if people stop and pay attention, all around the world and all across the racial divide, people are now and have always been complaining about the inappropriate behavior of these heads of the church when it comes to people's children. A lot of the children that were abused, molested, sodomized, raped, or whatever the case may be by these so-called men in the cloth, a lot of these individuals grew up and they are telling now. And they are across the racial divide in practically every single country on this planet. That is the objective. That's always been the objective. Remember, they're the ones that have the whole, we're going to drink the blood of Christ and we're going to eat the flesh of Christ. These people practice vampirism and blood drinking then. Our people found a lot of their people drinking blood from skulls. They practiced it then, they practice it now. A lot of these individuals were eating human flesh then, they eat human flesh now. It has not stopped. It's not going to stop. What needs to stop is all of the people across the globe buying into their racism agenda when it's really about blood drinking, flesh eating, torture, torment, ritual killings, pedophilia, which is child molestation, and pederasty, which is sodomizing male children and male child molestation. That is the agenda. That's always been the agenda, and that will continue to be the agenda. But people cannot get past their religious belief systems. They cannot get past their emotional involvement when they attach themselves to concepts that they have not made any time and effort to research. If you do my thing is this, when people are telling you something, especially if it's something that you have never ever heard before in your entire life, and it sounds so far removed from the truth and so way out in left field, because, hey, if that was the truth, that would be all over the news. You have to be making that up because it's not all over the news. The fact that it's not all over the news does not make it not true. What you should do is, rather than shout people down and argue and scream and yell and get emotional about what you don't agree with that they are saying, because that's not true, my church is not like that, and that's not true, my God is not like that. Most people are not even aware that half of the churches and affiliations and organizations that you've gotten yourself involved in were set up by these people that I'm talking about now. They are a criminal element on the planet, and they are doing some of the most vile behaviors you have ever seen on this planet. But because they're not seen, and the reason they're not seen is because these people control the television media, these people control the textbooks, these people control the music industry, these people control they're getting control now of the internet. Shutting down the internet in Egypt is a prime example of the control they're beginning to get. This type of control that they have is causing people to only believe what they see in the news and on television. They also control the newspapers and the radio stations. So I'm saying to you, when you see people coming forward and they're trying to wake you up and bring truth to you that is so far removed from any reality that you can wrap your brain around, rather than start saying they are a liar and they're disrespecting this person and they're not following that person, what you need to do is hear them out entirely and then go and do the research for yourself to try to prove that they are making it up or not, to determine if it's a lie or if it's the truth. Validate it for yourself instead of getting so emotional about things that you do not understand. Now, a lot of people are on the whole rights of a child and the human rights and the United Nations and these different types of rights that they say the indigenous people have to have. I'm going to say to you that that is also a part of the trick and the trap. Now, what you need to comprehend when people are talking about we have the right to self-determination and we have the right and the United Nations says we have this and that, but then people say, but why is it that the United Nations is supposed to stand for something and George Bush Jr. was ignoring the United Nations like it was the thing to do, and if everybody said, oh, that's because the head of the United Nations at the time was a brother. I don't know who's in charge now, but this is what they were trying to say. Oh, it's because there's an African brother over there and they're being racist. That's not what it was about. What it's about is the people do not know who the players are. They don't know who's who. They don't know what's what, and they don't know what's going on. Now, let me share some information that I was looking into all of these charters earlier today, or as many of them as I could find in these declarations for the rights of this I want to say indigent, that's what keeps coming out of my mouth, but indigenous people and these type of things like that. But what one has to understand is that the United Nations started out as a war instrument. Now, I'm going to read something straight out of the Columbia Encyclopedia, the second edition of the Columbia Encyclopedia. And before I read out of it, I need to give you the year that this thing was put out. The first one was printed in 1935, and my edition is a 1956, okay? I read the United Nations, what was that thing called? It was called the Declaration, the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, and I also read the General Assembly for the Charter of the United Nations. One of the things that they said that everybody misses, because people hear what they want to hear, but because they don't know how to read, they don't know how to see what they see. The very last thing at the bottom of after the 46 declaration in one of these instruments was, nothing in this declaration is to be construed as anything that will be contradictory to the original charter of the United Nations. Now, the original charter of the United Nations, you have to understand where that started and how that came about. The Charter of the United Nations the United Nations itself is a chartered entity, and it replaced an organization called the League of Nations, and that happened after World War II. But Franklin D. Roosevelt is the individual that named it the United Nations, and he named it the United Nations because that was how they were describing the countries that had unified together to fight against the Axis. Now, at that time, the Axis was called, well, the Axis were the Roman, Italian, it was the Axis was Rome and Germany. That's what it was. The heads of Rome and the heads of Germany had gotten together and created an Axis. So the United Nations was supposed to be against that Axis. But now, somehow, the Roman Catholic Church is in control of it. Just like when we helped the Europeans set up the United States, one of the things that they were warned against is whatever you do, do not allow the Catholics to get into this thing that we're helping set up to liberate you from them. And they were so busy hating on us that they allowed the heads of the crown heads of Europe and the heads of the church to get back into the government that we helped them set up and told them do not let the Catholics into it. Now they're running it. Rome has an embassy in Washington, D.C. However, the charter is another word for this charter for the United Nations is a governing treaty. That's what a charter is. In this instance, it is the governing treaty, okay? Now, the charter was drafted by the San Francisco Conference. Another way of saying the San Francisco Conference, which took place in 1945, another way of saying it is the United Nations Conference on International Organization. It's nothing more than a war efforts agency. That's all it is. Now, listen to this definition of charter. A charter, and I'm not going to read you all of it. I'm going to read the first part of it because that's the meat and potatoes. You guys don't have all day to listen to me read a whole book. Charter is a document issued by a central government, especially a monarch, to a person, a group of persons, a corporation, a municipality, a local government, or an entire population, granting specific administrative, judicial, or legislative rights. That's what a charter is. But that's not even the whole deal. Keep the word underneath charter, and it's called a chartered company. Now, chartered companies are, it says here, though the modern corporation, which is today's type, receives its charter from the state, the term chartered company is now usually applied to a kind of association for foreign trade. That's what the United Nations is, and that's what it's about. And it goes on to say further in the parentheses that a chartered company is something set up for colonization schemes. That's S-C-H-E-M-E-S. The United Nations was set up for a corporate colonization scheme. And if you think that you can sit there and get your liberations based on some declaration of under the United Nations, you better think again, because they're not there for that. But people don't look back far enough. I don't know much. I only know something about a handful of words, so I'm trying to give you some insight on some of these little basic words and terminologies. And I'm saying all that to say that the Europeans and I don't even want to say Europeans, I'm going to say a criminal element of people who, at one point, Rome was a place that almost everybody's criminal element could find safety or acceptance in Rome. And these same criminals are now in charge of the whole world, and they use these agencies, associations, and corporations like governments, churches, schools, and the United Nations to get away with what they get away with. And it is the fault, in my opinion, it is the fault of the very Europeans that were, one, cast out of Europe, that were, two, some that were not cast out fled because they had to get away, and when they got away, they lost sight of the goal, which was to forever stay liberated and free from the tyranny of the crowned heads of Europe and the bastard, child-molesting, criminal element that is the heads of the churches. They lost sight of that, and now we're all under the thumb of these people, and we're going to have to figure out how to liberate ourselves from them, which is not easy to do when everybody's arguing over what came first, the man or the woman. No, we're not Moorish American, we're not American, we're not African American. You know, you can be a cosmic entity of the cosmos and have nothing to do with this. You can be a black American, you can be a European American, you can be a Mexican. I don't care what you want to call yourself. You can call yourself a purple, green eyesore. At the end of the day, if these same people who they are notorious for atrocities against all ethnic stocks of people all around the world, and children in particular, if we don't wake up and get it together and unify and get into a one mindset, we're going to all be screwed. We're going to all find ourselves back where we were, where they were telling people to scalp us. And I hear a lot of people saying that these people on the reservations were us. I submit to you that's not possible. You know, a lot of times you have to just use common sense. Never mind not knowing what the definitions of words are, just think. If, in fact, the Europeans were given, they were paid to bring in a certain number of scalps. They got money for every scalp of our individuals that they brought in, per scalp. And yet they said we were scalping them. That's not accurate. We did not start out scalping them. They started out scalping us. But when you look at the people on the reservations today and the type of hair that they have, and you look at the so-called Europeans today and the type of hair that they have, you could not delineate or distinguish their hair from anybody else's hair other than maybe the color of the hair. However, if you yank the scalp off of our bushy hair, locked up head, nappy hair, whatever you want to call it, our scalps are extremely identifiable. It's easy to determine without question, if you take the hair off of the heads of one of my people, who they were scalping here. Now, as far as people saying we're not American, or American, somebody told me that they were saying American is a bastardized way of saying Al-Moroccan. Well, if American is a bastardized way of saying Al-Moroccan, then why are you having a problem with American? Because if Al-Moroccan and American are one and the same word, then you should understand, one, why you don't see Al-Moroccan on a map anywhere, but you do see American, and if, in fact, Noble Drew Ali is supposed to have said that we are Moorish American, why didn't he say we were Al-Moroccan American or Moorish Al-Moroccan? Somebody's lying somewhere. And I don't know what the truth is because I don't have all the documents that have been pulled and have been buried and have been hidden. All I'm saying to you is use your brain, use your mind, and do not believe every single thing that people say when they start trying to incite discord and discontent amongst us. The Europeans have been masterful at that since they got off the Mayflower. They jumped over here. They got us fighting amongst ourselves. And you know, we were fighting amongst ourselves probably anyway prior to that. But battles with us and one another were nothing like the things that they had us devolved to. This outright murder of, whole scorns of people and women and children. We weren't doing that prior to them. We were not doing it. So they started the discord between the so-called Iroquois and this group or that group and the other group. And then when prime example, when the Black Panthers, who really should have been called the American Jaguars, when the Black Panthers came up, they made it their business to get us to come up, to counter it. And no matter what we're doing, the European always has somebody else that they're going to raise up in our midst to create confusion. Now, here, Taj and I come along. We sit together. Now, Taj and I don't agree on every single thing. We don't. But we have enough sense to not be disagreeable about what we disagree on, and we have enough sense to not get disrespectful or have shouting matches about what we disagree on. There are things I'm sure that I'm saying that he doesn't quite agree with, and there are things that he says that I don't quite agree with, but I respect him and his research, and apparently he respects mine. Things are simply common sense. Just try to keep it simple. I don't know why we keep trying to keep making things more complicated than they have to be. I don't care what this used to be called in ancient times. Not at this time. Not at this time. What I'm concerned about is, at this time, no other people in America can claim the nationality American and have it really stick except melanin-rich, copper-colored people across the continental divide. Now, there's something else I'm going to share with you guys that you may not even be ready for. I did some research the other day, and I read several books. And one was a 1915 book, and I can't quite recall the name of the author because I read so many books. I know it had something to do with Aboriginal Canada. And I was only reading it because the Hamiltons that I got into came from Canada, and I'm like, maybe I can find something going on in Canada under the Hamiltons. Now, when I started reading this book got way, way deeper than I ever could have expected. Now, the European didn't tell me anything I didn't know. What he did do was validate a lot of things that I do know. But one of the things he said, and I'm gonna alienate a whole lot of melanin-rich people on this one, because we got people that want to be Egyptian, and we have people that want to be African, and we have people that want to be Moorish American. And let me say this to the brothers and sisters that insist on being only Moorish American. If, in fact, you're following Noble Drew Ali that well, what you need to understand is this. Noble Drew Ali said in his own writings that the people that he was liberating, the so-called Moorish Americans, were Moorish Americans and Moors because they had been enslaved and brought here from Morocco as Moroccans. The book says that. So again, you're not claiming an attachment to here. So everybody that wants to be a Moorish American, you're entitled to that, but read further the information. And again, I don't know how accurate the information is because, again, the temples have been heavily infiltrated by agents. They have been. Understand that. Now, the truth is, if in fact the Moors, the sundry free Moors under the documentation, were Moors that were captured and brought here from Morocco, then you're not really of here either. If you follow that writing, which too many individuals have a tendency, and this is a problem that I have with a lot of awake people in the community, especially young people that haven't done enough research and haven't gotten clear on anything before they start spouting stuff out. What happens is people will listen to you and they will go out and do the things you tell them to do without the clarity required and without you showing them what to do next. What's A, what's B, what's C. If you tell somebody to go quit their job and get rid of their driver's license, get rid of their Social Security card, and then they lose their house and they lose their way of living and they become homeless sleeping in their car, are you going to give them a bowl of soup? I would say probably not. These individuals that are telling people to do ridiculous things before they are clear on what you're talking about. I submit to people that they should stay on whatever path they're on, do whatever it is that they need to do, and stay focused on, I need to hear these people out so I can see what they're saying, make sure I comprehend everything I need to know before I jump out of the fire and out of the frying pan and into the fire. Because our people are in a frying pan. And if you jump on the bandwagon that everyone is telling you to jump on and you haven't gotten real clear on what it is you're doing, you are going to wind up in trouble. I know people that did UCCs, melanin rich, and European. A lot of people lost their houses. A lot of people wound up incarcerated. And the same people that advised them to do things were not there to save them when they fell. I know people that have tried to cancel their documents and step out of Rome, and now they're running around with nowhere to go. And I'm going to say it again, and I don't know how many times I should say it. Before these individuals that tell you to change your whole life and turn it upside down so you can get from under the jurisdiction of the Europeans and whatever that are misruling our people, before they tell you anything that you take it upon yourself to act.
Okay, let's see.
Can you hear me now? Or you still can't hear me?
No, you. Okay, we got Sister Yaffa back. Okay, we apologize for that.
Must have been the alphabet people. Something I said they didn't like, you think?
No, I mean, we still have the same number of callers here, sis. Everybody was just, patiently waiting, and I really do. Thanks for the listeners' understanding. I mean, these things happen, so continue forward, sis.
What did you guys hear? One of the last things I said was, did anybody have a question on any of that before I move on to the next thing? And does anybody have a question about anything I've just said before we move on?
No, there weren't any questions.
I have no idea what is the last thing you guys heard. I really have no idea. I have no clue. Okay, well, listen to, what you need to understand about these entities, according to them, there are only 3 options that they consider legitimate options for self-government, okay? One of them is free association with an independent state. The second one is integration into an independent state. And the third one is just straight-up independence. Those are the only options that the European claims that you have the right to utilize to become free. And I was looking at the Convention Concerning Indigenous and Tribal and Independent Countries. I was looking at draft for declarations, independence for colonial countries or people that have been colonized, rights of self-determination. I'm looking at all this stuff, and I'm like, it's all a bunch of bull. They are setting up additional traps for us. And all I'm saying to my people is, call yourself whatever you want to call yourself. Comprehend the words you use when you speak. Know what you're saying and why you're saying it. Know what you're doing and why you're doing it. I was giving a brother an example earlier. And I didn't know this brother personally, but, it came to my attention a few years back about a brother that had some kind of court case or some sort of case, and he was in court in another state. At the time, I was in California. He was in court in another state, and he got into the courtroom, and he was arguing his rights as a Moor, as a Moorish American, my bad. And the judge, the so-called judge, was like, a what? He's like, I'm a Moor. I'm one of the Moors of Morocco. He's like, Moor of Morocco, huh? He said, well, maybe we should just deport you back there. And that's when I said, I need to start telling my people what words mean, because they're just listening to people, and they're doing things, and they're saying things, and they're claiming things, and they're not clear on what they're saying and why they're saying it. That's when I started bringing it to individuals, and I said, if you have clarity on Morocco, which Brother Taj even mentioned the other night, Morocco is from the Arabic word al-Maghrib Aqsa, or is it al-Aqsa? Al-Maghrib Aqsa, which means the furthest, farthest extreme west. Now, you're going to have people that are going to say, but that's the furthest, farthest extreme west in Africa. So know when you say you're Moor or Moorish of Morocco, or descendants under the authority of the Sultan of Morocco, you better know what you're saying so they don't bounce you off of America and go, well, you don't even belong here. Does that make sense? Because too many individuals start claiming things that sound good and start doing things that look good and wind up in trouble. I'm one of them. I am not even going to, because see, people would get pissed off if I start telling people the drama and drag that I was pulled through following some of these same people that young people are going to follow because things sound good. All of this dogma is there to keep us arguing. It is there to keep us distracted, and it is there to separate us. And the whole objective is these churches, or the heads of these churches, their sole purpose is meat and food for fodder, because they're cannibals still, they're ritual killers still, they're child molesters still. They still run all of these so-called countries to this very day, but because people don't comprehend what words mean, they don't comprehend what they're looking at. Now, in the 1828 dictionary, the definition of charter says a whole lot of things, but it talks about instruments that are executed and written instruments between man and man. And it goes down here. One of the things that I thought was really important is this. It says, in its more usual sense, it is the instrument of a grant conferring powers, rights, and privileges, either from a king or other sovereign power or from a private person. Now, people need to comprehend that it goes on to say that the charters under which most of the colonies, and now they don't call them colonies today, they call them states today. Most of the colonies in America, doesn't say in the United States because, you know, it says in America, were settled, or were in America, were given by the King of England and incorporated certain persons, those are probably the heads of the churches, with powers to hold the lands granted. And why can they hold the lands granted? Because our people are not claiming to be anything whatsoever to do with America. And those individuals that are determined to not be American or a part of America, they probably aren't. And I'm going to tell you why I'm saying that. This book that I was telling you about, and the brother texted me and he says by a guy named Leacock. Looks like peacock, but starts with an A, Leacock. The cat named Leacock, who wrote this book on Aboriginal Canada in 1915, he made it so clear to me that I'm going to see if I can make it clear to you. The people here, the Aboriginal autochthonous people of the Americas were considered a type of island that really were not attached to anything else. And he said, yes, there are theories about people walking across the Bering Straits and hopping on stones across the Bering Straits. And I said this before, but I'm going to try to clarify it even better for you. He also said there are theories about people getting on boats and coming over here across the water, being blown in the wind. There are also theories about the land masses being one Pangea, all connected together, and did some sort of continental drift. There's also the theory that there were continents that were connecting this stuff together that sunk, and that's what separated everything. But what nobody is telling my people, that they really need to comprehend is that the Europeans cannot figure out where the hell we came from, because based on all the research that they have done, the people of the Americas, from the top of America to the bottom, and I mean from the top of Canada and Alaska down through the bottom of Peru and Chile and everything in between, those individuals looked a lot like one another. They were so similar in feature and similar in color and similar in hair texture and the whole 9 yards. Even though there were some people that had straighter hair, it was obvious that these people were connected together physiologically and genetically. However, the languages we spoke, which were called the American languages, not English, because the English weren't here yet, they were called the American languages. All of the American languages, although they were distinct, there was still strong similarity between the languages. But no one could figure out why the people of America, who they were first calling Americans and then started calling Indians, why the people of the Americas did not look like anybody else in the world. The people that they found in the Americas that were described as copper-colored, bushy-haired, some had straight hair, but they were still dark complexion. They were dusky-colored, dark complexion, bushy-haired, woolly-haired, copper-colored, dark-skinned people. These people here didn't look anything at all like the people from Africa. They didn't look anything at all like the people from India. They didn't look anything at all like the people from Asia. They didn't look anything at all like the people from Europe. The only similarity that they were able to find was that, unlike the Europeans that were paler in complexion, the people in India, Asia, and Africa, what the hell is happening?
Sister Yaffa?
You guys hear me? What the hell?
Yeah, we can hear you, Sister Yaffa. I don't know. That must have been a slip. That must have been a slip of someone on the switchboard. But maybe it was all for a great grand purpose, because there was a question as you were going on about the Europeans and them not knowing where we came from. The question was, how can Europeans know where we came from when we were already here when they showed up? So that was somebody that wanted to.
Okay,
shot that
I'll answer the question if the music will stop.
Yeah, I don't know how that happened. You know, I'm just rolling, sis. I'm not even trying to, you know. Yeah, just go ahead.
Are we still on the air or what?
Yeah, we're still on the air, and the question again was how can
talking amongst ourselves privately. I had no idea that this whole interchange between us was being listened to. Wow.
No, sis, you know, sis. I mean, it's people in the chat. It's people. I see it for myself. I'm not even gonna shout out numbers, but you got listeners. Seriously. So that was one of the questions.
Let me try to field the question, because if they'd have let me finish, they'd have understood what I'm trying to say. It is not. Are we on the air? Can they even
Yes,
hear me?
we're on the air. Go ahead. Yes.
Okay. It is not so much about them came from because we were here before they got here. That's not the point I'm trying to make. You guys are missing where I'm going with this. Where I'm going with this is based on all of their research, and I'm going to say to you it's probably even to this very day. Their whole thing is it's like the people of the autochthonous aboriginal people of America. It's like we just sprung up from this continent. We were not connected to anybody. Remember, even Brother what's his name, Horace Butler, even Brother Horace Butler said that when some of our brethren, or what we currently call brethren, because we're at a point now that so many people have tapped into our bloodline, hell, everybody's our brethren now. But prior to that, when some people came over here on ships that blew in the wind from what is currently Africa, and they found us here already. And they said they had to watch how they tiptoed around the people that they found in the Americas when they came from Africa. And when they pushed further north and started trying to expand their empire on our empire, they ran into my niggas with these bows and arrows and, got their rear ends whipped. So I'm saying this to say it has been determined but not disclosed to anyone that the people of the Americas are a completely distinct people from everyone else. Even the Eskimos in Alaska that they try to say walked across the Bering Straits, and that they say that because they look Asian, he even discounted that. He said all of these theories are bull. They're bogus. Who are these people? Nobody can figure out where the people in America came from, because even the people that they say are Alaskan, that they try to say, Eskimos that they try to say are not American or not what they claim is so-called Indian, the reason they say that is because those individuals are similar in complexion to people across the Bering Strait as far as being paler in skin, but they were still bushy-haired like everybody else in the Americas all the way down into Mexico, and their facial features were still so strikingly the same as everybody else here that it's not accurate that you can even connect them to anybody else. So I'm saying, when the Europeans showed up, one of the things the Vatican and the Pope had to say about us is like, well, whoa, it's almost like they are protected by the devil. This is what he had to say. It's as if the devil secluded them out here all by themselves so that they would be out of the reach of the grasp of the holy Christian word. It's like they were set apart. And all this cat could say, Leacock, is if in fact the individuals that were found here have any connection whatsoever to anybody else in the world, which is apparent that they do not have any connection. Either we sprung up from the continent or we dropped from outer space, because we don't look like anybody else. We didn't talk like anybody else. We were nothing like Asians, Indians, Africans, or Europeans. Now that's that, and that's all. But if in fact there was any connection to us where the lands were connected, or we walked across or got blew across on boats, or the sinking of some continent, then it must have happened so many eons ago, because there is no resemblance whatsoever between us and anyone else in the world. And based on that, that is why everybody runs here, because it's like, what the question really was, what made them so special? Who are they? Why are they all over here separate from the rest of the world? Why was the Creator or nature so abundant with them that they gave them just such an immense bounty of everything? The people of the America had so much in comparison to everybody else that they actually had the nerve to call us lazy. And he said that it's not that our people were lazy. What it was that our people had such an abundance from nature and Creator that we didn't have to labor as hard as everybody else. So they didn't understand why we were special and set apart. It's almost like a Job with a hedge around him. Don't you touch him. Now, he is only disclosing what was a secret that was being discussed amongst the European communities that I'm submitting to you as discussed to this day. They still are trying to find out who we are. These people are still angry with us because we had so much and everyone else had so little. They're still jealous of us, and everybody around the world runs over here and jumps on our back and tries to take advantage of everything that was ours and everyone wants to claim to be us and be a part of us. So, saying that, for the people that are on the whole Moroccan versus American thing, Horace Butler said in no uncertain terms that the brothers and sisters that came here from the continent that you currently call Africa and set up the first Egypt here, because later they went back and set up what y'all are looking at now. The step pyramids came first, and then they went back and set up them sleek pyramids. You know, you got to start rough and then get refined as you go. But those individuals, when they came here, they named this Tameri. But when we were already here. So, yes, I'm not sure what we used to be called before all of these people showed up, because it was so-called Africans that came, what you currently identify as African Egyptian, or whatever the verbiage is that you want to call these people, that came here first. But when they got here, they found us here too. Now, at this point, we may have a whole verbiage or style or national name that should be applied to us that's greater than all of it. All I'm saying to my people is, at this time, American is about the only thing that really fits us here, that also connects us to here, so people can't say, go back to Africa, because a whole lot of people keep telling my people, all you Afrocentrists, you hate America and the United States, why don't you go back to Africa? And people are saying that in the UK. People are saying that on the reservations. People are saying that from Mexico. All kind of people are trying to bounce us up off of this puppy. And my submitting to you is, they're not going to have to try very hard, because we're doing a masterful job, a lot of us, of bouncing ourselves up off of here. I know somebody has to have some kind of question. Wow. Okay, nobody has a question?
Okay, Yaffa?
Yes.
Okay, we do have a caller. Would you like to take a caller right now?
Sure, as long as they're not trying to argue, but yeah, bring the caller in.
Yes, okay. All right, caller from the 575 area code. You're on Nu Khemit Rebirth. Peace, caller, are you there?
Yes. Can you hear me?
Yes, we hear you.
All right, this the brother Free from Chains.
Oh, all right, Brother Sanku. How you doing this evening?
I'm all right. I'm all right. I've been listening to Blog Talks back to back this evening. Everybody's riled up. Definitely peace to the sister Yaffa Bey. You know, she holds it down. You know, like no other. You know what I'm saying? She cuts all the pork fat off of this Moorish movement.
Oh, wow. I'm not trying to do that. I'm trying to unify my people. My thing is, we can be Moors, we can be whatever you want. You can call yourself whatever you like. All I'm saying is that by definition, claiming what fits you, which is American, the copper-colored races that the Europeans found here, is what you should go back and claim your estate as. Once you get it in your head, you can call it what you want.
I agree 100%. You already know that. What I think what needs to happen is that all the individual factions or tribes of our people, go ahead. You can stick with your individual factions and tribes, but like you said, under all of those, over all of those tribes, we need to claim one common nationality, and that's American. I mean, okay, Canada is called North America. This continent right here that's called North America is called North America. Mexico is called Central America. South America is called South America. For one reason, Americans inhabit this land, period. From 14,000 years ago, a million years ago, whatever you want to say, Americans inhabited this land. That happens to be the last term that was being used, you know, besides all the tribes, but American is definitely the nationality. Now, everybody else claiming our nationality with adding the adjectives to it. Am I correct, Yaffa? By calling themselves African-American, Mexican-American, Italian-American, you know, British-American, all kinds of things like that. they're adding on an adjective to what kind of American they say they are. Even though they're not the indigenous American, they probably were born here as of the last 300, 400 years or whatever the case may be. With that being said, as the original people here, we need to look no further than American, you know what I'm saying? And I mean, I understand the Moorish movement is great in all of that, in all of its aspects and derivatives, but it's causing too much confusion at this point for a status or a nationality that we're trying to seek when we don't have any land that says Moorish American. This is the Moorish American land. You get what I'm saying?
Exactly. But they got Morocco land. They got Mauritania land. And you might be supported back there.
So,
exactly.
I mean, if there's no land to speak of, there's no courthouses, there's no governmental structure of any kind at all as far as the Moorish American movement is concerned, then how are we expecting anybody in the civilized world to give us the time of day? We don't have any land. We don't have any infrastructure. We don't have any hospitals. We don't have any schools. We don't have anything of the sort.
Okay, now that's a good question. I'm going to tell you, one of the problems is we do have land. America is our land. And we're Americans.
Well, no, I get what you're saying, but I mean, like, as far as...
No, I'm answering your question, because you're saying as far as the hospitals and whatever, the reason we don't have these things set up is because our people are too busy trying to leave home. Man, I'm going to Ghana. They give away free land. I'm going to Senegal. I'm going to Egypt. I'm going to here and there and everywhere. You know, I'm going to Samoa. I'm going to I'm going to Hawaii. You're already at home. We're already here.
Right.
I know you understand that, but I'm saying the reason that the infrastructure is not set up, that's part of it. The other part of it is this. When our melanin-rich brethren, mostly brothers, and I'm not going to excuse sisters, but it's mostly brothers, acquire a massive amount of financing that could be brought back to the communities to erect these things that you're asking about, they make it their personal business to stick a pale-skinned European female or some male or something else on them so that other races of people can take the wealth. In other words, sisters are great and good enough for brothers when they're struggling through the hood and they're trying to get their beats together and they're trying to do what they have to do to make things happen. But as soon as brothers make it big and strike it out there, it's like, oh, I can't deal with the black woman. She ain't good enough. She's going to embarrass me in public. She don't know how to act. I'm going to get me one of these white girls. Because why? Now that you have money, these women are throwing themselves at you. They're raised to go after money. But the first thing the average brother says is, oh, well, I don't want to mess with no sisters because, you know, I got money, and sisters, all they want is your money. No, brother, you got it backwards. You got it all screwed up. Sisters wanted you. That's why when you didn't have anything, not you per se, but brothers in general, you had no money to speak of. You had no job to speak of. A lot of brothers don't even have their own car. They riding around their girlfriends' cars and this and that while she has a job and he don't have a job because he's working on his beats. And I'm not trying to attack brothers, but I'm just saying while these types of things are transpiring and the brother is getting on his feet, the sister is great enough to hold him up while he's getting on his feet. But as soon as he gets on his feet, the Europeans throw a European female after him to scoop up the money and put it into their communities. So none of it ever gets back to our communities. The professional athletes, the professional singers, the professional actors, these European people are sicked on them to make sure that the money never gets home because, after all, if the brother has a sister at his side and he becomes a millionaire or winds up making a lot of Federal Reserve notes or whatever, if he says, you know, baby, I want to open up a after school something in my neighborhood because, you know, when I was coming up in the hood, there was nothing to do. There was nowhere to go. Brothers were getting shot and, you know, getting beat up at home. I want to put something there so brothers will have something to do so they can be more positive. A sister will be like, you know, baby, I think that's a great idea. Let's do it. Now, if you have a European wife and you come at her with that, she'll be like, well, you know, that all sounds good, baby, but I think you need to think location, location, location. You shouldn't spend all of your money in the community. Those people won't appreciate it. You're just going to throw good money after that. I think you should open up your restaurant or your gym or your after-school program over here. And when it's all said and done, it'll wind up in their neighborhoods, in their communities, and we wind up with little or nothing left. You have brothers that get out there and they make it big, and they're trying to kick money back to their relatives. You know, they'll buy their little nephew's cars, and they'll give their, cousins money and their mother money and whatever. But as soon as they get with a European woman, she starts intercepting phone calls. Oh, he's not here. Oh, I'm sorry, he's in the shower. I'll have him call you back. Oh, he's busy right now. Now you can't even get to your people because she's there to make sure that all the money goes to her and her family, and it goes back into the European community and never gets back to our people so we can build up our own communities. That's why the hospitals and the schools and things are not being set up, because the people that have the money to kick it back gets usurped by people that think, oh, I'm stepping up. I have money now. I can get a better woman. Now I can get a white woman because a black woman ain't good enough for a man with money.
I agree. No, that's you answered the question head on the nail. I mean, and it goes even deeper to the point where it's like, okay, if you're gonna go to a court, right, you're gonna say, I'm a Moorish American, or I'm a Washita Moor, or I'm a Mexican Moor, or anything of the kind, and they're gonna say, where's your land? And you're gonna say, my land is here. You're on my land, and then they're gonna say, what? We don't know what you're talking about. You know what I'm saying? Or pull out some records or anything like that. Now the last records is gonna be your 200 or 150-year-old records that are at the courthouse and whatever your family owned at the time, you know what I'm saying, before the whole United States federal government usurped our nation, you know what I'm saying? So that's the only way you're going to be able to stand up in court and prove anything, to say that they're on your land. And that's my biggest thing is right now, is trying to link us back to the land properly, and what documentations we can pull out in the courtroom and say that their court is actually on our land. You get what I'm saying?
Oh yeah, everything they have set up is on our land, but but people don't think this is our land, because our people don't think they're from here. And some of the people, if you don't feel like you're from here, you probably are not. Now there is something else that I found in my research that a lot of people don't want to know, and they're not going to want to hear, because, again, I don't want to talk too much because people don't want to hear what I have to say. So I can only tell you.
Well, Sister Yaffa, I beg to differ, because you have a call coming from the 214 that I guess has a comment or question, so I just wanted to let you know that.
Okay. I forgot what I was getting ready to say, so come on with the question.
So you were just saying a lot of people are not going to want to hear what you wanted, what you were going to say. And I don't know if Brother Sanko was finished
what I was going to say was kind of pissing people off, but they needed to know.
No, I wasn't finished, but I mean, it's she's about to
No, it's not finished, brother. I know. I understand.
No. What Yaffa is saying is that it's basically like, people don't want to hear the truth about the whole situation, because once you hear the truth, now you're held accountable for not acting on the truth that's just been imparted to you.
Exactly.
It allows you to stay lazy and complacent and go get a white woman, basically, in essence, Now, my thing with white people is, unfortunately, I've been interbred into the whole white situation, so I have to go with a more universal approach when I deal in the world.
Yeah.
I got somebody in the chat room that said I was being rude. I don't know if that's true or not. If that is true, then I will fall back.
Now, you know what all of this is really telling me? What I'm saying is that Yaffa's just going to have to, she really need to come on every Thursday so we can work this here thing out. Okay? So, if, we all family in here, and we all trying to learn so that we can be progressive and move forward as a collective, then if I was sitting on the phone and I was waiting to talk to her, and I sit on the phone and I'll be waiting to talk to her. What else are you doing? You know what I'm saying? This is all the pertinent information that we need. We are here for a purpose, first and foremost.
But somebody said I was being rude, so if that's true, I'll fall back. If not, then I'll stay on the line.
No, I'm accustomed. First of all, I don't perceive. I've dealt with people that have been rude. You're fine, and I'm okay with people that are rude. I'm going to encounter them. The stuff that I'm telling people, some people are not ready to hear it, can't hear it, and ain't feeling it. So I'm okay with that. You're not coming at me being rude. So somebody may feel that way, but I'm okay with it. I've dealt with worse. I remember what I was going to say, however, and that is what a lot of people don't know and aren't going to want to know is I wish I could remember the name of the king, but the European men, when they arrived here and we were here, they were given a stipend. They were paid to marry up. They were paid, they were advised, you are to find out who their communities has wealth, who has power, who is influential. Is that music again? Are we being derailed again?
No, I hear you just
okay,
fine. You're on the air.
I heard something go Blog Talk Radio. But anyway, they were given a stipend to pay, they were paid to marry our people that were about something. So what people have a problem with, they talk about, white people this and mixed breed and half breed that. If you're alive today, and a lot of people aren't going to want to know this, but I'm going to tell it anyway based on my research. If you're alive today, there's only 3 reasons why you're still walking on America if you look like us, because they were trying to wipe us out. 1, they married, you allowed them to marry into the bloodline, either by trickery, by force, or because you were given some color complex. These men were paid to marry sisters who were the daughters of influential men, the daughters of emperors, the daughters of what they call kings or so-called chiefs. They were paid to marry up. If you had a lot of land or whatever, they were paid to marry you. If you had influence over the community and people listened to you, they were paid a stipend to marry you. They would have children with these people. They would treat our women like dog crap. Every now and then you'd run into one that actually had any respect for his wife. Then he would leave. He'd be reassigned or relocated, because after all, you're dealing with mercenaries. They'd be relocated and they'd remarry and do it all again. That's how a lot of us have these pale ancestors in our background. If, however, you were not what they called a family worth getting into your bloodline, if you're still walking America and you look like us, you were somebody that they enslaved and made you a servant, and you had to serve them. Those were the only 2 options. You will serve us or you will breed with us. Otherwise, you would die. The only 3rd people that are left walking today in the United States that look like us, that are autochtons, are individuals who ran off and hid in the woods, in the swamps, in the bayou, and in the caves. If you weren't one of those 3 people, you're not even autochthonous. Those are the only 3 people walking around here. Bred in, enslaved, or hid in the swamps and stuff like this. That's it.
Okay. All right. Well, Sister Yaffa, do you want to take this call from Texas now?
Yes, take the call. I just wanted to make sure I said that before I forgot again.
Yeah, I understand. All right.
Yeah, I'm going to be.
All right. Peace to the caller from 214. How you doing this evening?
I'm doing good. I'm enjoying the show.
All right, good. All right.
It's interesting. It's some of the stuff that y'all talking about I've never heard before. And I'm 40 years old, and it's just unreal to me. It's unbelievable. And like I said, I'm just you really enlightening me. But
Thank
yeah,
you.
I'm
I appreciate the comment. Really, I do, because lately it seems that I'm getting beat up by people. It's almost like people are trying to be disrespectful. Not the last brother. It's like people are bringing me out to disrespect me, or either to use my name to acquire ratings. But yeah, I appreciate your comment. I'm glad that you're getting something out of it. I don't know everything, but I can keep people clear on stuff.
And we also appreciate you for holding on to, brother. Thank you for your patience.
Not bad. But do you have something else you want to say? Was that
I just wanted to share that I'm just really coming into, I guess you can say, a form of enlightenment after being enslaved by Christianity for 39 years. And I can actually say enslaved. I'm originally from New Orleans. I'm living in Texas right now, actually in the Dallas area. And I'm originally from New Orleans. And it's amazing because some of the things that I knew of by growing up in New Orleans, I had never indulged in. A lot of the knowledge was around me, but I never indulged in it. And it took me, some years to really understand some things. And, I was raised as a Christian, which I can't say is all bad, because in some cases it's necessary. You know what I mean? And, whatever keeps you, I guess you can say, morally sound at the time until you reach a point where you come into some type of enlightenment and knowing and expanding your mind to the point where you know that there's something beyond being put in a certain category or box, namely religion. Okay, knowing that
the religion box to stay in power, and that's why we're not moving forward, because of a lot of our people are stuck in the religion box, and they will argue you down before they let go of the belief system.
Right.
It was all put out there by the European to distract you. Go ahead. My bad. Absolve me for cutting you off. Go ahead.
No, that's okay, but that's one of the things that I realized, because with my new awareness, I realized that I'm gonna tell you, if I had, let me see how can I put this. There were certain things, there were certain lines that you didn't cross. Growing up as a Afro-American in a Christian family, based upon the Christian teachings of that time. I was born in '69. So there were certain lines that you didn't cross. There were certain things that you couldn't say, you didn't say, and so that was sort of like the norm. In other words, I realized later on that a lot of that stuff was just fear. It had nothing to do with religion. It was just it was a fear. Go ahead.
Not to cut you off, but there's a reason for the fear. And a lot of people tell me, I don't fear the white man. Well, if you know history, they're crazy. If you comprehend how they instilled the fear in our people in order to get control because of their total lack of sanity. If someone walks into a bank and there are 30 people in the bank and one or two people walk in with a gun, those one or two people can pretty much overtake the 30 people that are unarmed, even if the bank happens to have one armed guard. Now, does that mean that the people with the two people with the guns are superior to the 30 or more powerful than the 30? No. The 30 are thinking about, man, I got to go pick up my kids, I got things to do, or whatever the case may be, I just want to get out of here alive. But people are like, oh, the European ain't all that, because, they don't understand how it was done. Now, one of the things they did, for example, they would do things like, you may have a 13-year-old daughter. They would do things like, there may be 50 of you and one or two of them with guns, and you're out there with maybe a bow and arrow. A lot of times you didn't even have that. But they would do things like take your 13-year-old daughter, cut her titty off in front of you, and toss it back and forth as a ball. They would do things like make people sit on steel seats and light fire to the seats and cook you on the seat until you started to stick to the seat in front of everybody. They would do things like a woman that was pregnant and slit her belly and snatch the baby out and bash the baby's head upside the wall or staunch the baby to death in front of everybody. They would do things like take a 2-day-old baby and take a hot iron poker and shove it up the baby's vagina or shove it up the baby's anus in front of everybody. And people were like, you know what? Whatever it is you guys want us to do, we'll do it. Just stop. That doesn't make them superior to you.
You know what? And what's so amazing to me that I started to understand is a lot of that was done in the name of the cross.
Exactly. All these people were working for the Roman Catholic Church. And one of the first things they did when they got here after tormenting the adults and killing off the adults is they did what I'm trying to tell you guys they're trying to do, and that's the whole objective. The first thing they did is absconded with all the youth and took them off and put them in these schools away from their adults where they were raped and sodomized and traumatized, and they wound up with these split Manchurian candidate, Sybil-type fractured minds with multiple personalities, and then they were released back into the community. That's what they're doing right now. That's why they keep adopting so many of our children. And there are actually people that look like us that will say things like, I think that it's a good thing that the white people are adopting our children because it ain't like we're doing it. It ain't like we're adopting them, so somebody needs to take care of them. Well, first of all, they're not making it that easy for us to get access to our own children when they come, once they get their hands on them and take them away. That's first of all. And second, these people don't like us like that. They're not getting your children from Haiti or Africa or from the crack mama in one of these hospitals in the United States because they love us so much. These are the same people that beat the hell out of, what was that little young brother that was accused of whistling at some European woman, and they beat him to the point that his head was swollen up bigger than a basketball, and you couldn't even tell who he was. I can't think of the little cat's name. Anyway, these are the same people that when we were so-called marching with Martin Luther King, that wasn't even that long ago. These are the same people that were throwing bottles at the women and children, spitting on them, sticking dogs on them, beating them with clubs. These are children out there. These are the same people that will stick a dog on your child. It would take 5 or 10 adults to beat up a 13-year-old or 15-year-old young brother. They don't like us like that, in my opinion, enough for them to want to take our children and do right by our babies. You don't even know how to treat our babies when you encounter them on the street. So why would we think that you're going to take them into your home and do right by them when we know that you're a pedophile nature or culture by nature? Now, some of those people have evolved beyond that and grown out of it. Why? Because they were exposed to us. Because it wasn't in our culture. We didn't even have words for that type of behavior. We didn't practice that type of behavior. Not here. I don't know about anywhere else in the world, but not here.
Right. Yeah, it was bred into us, though. It was bred into us.
Yeah.
We have some history with that, too, but it was bred into us.
Oh, yeah. And it comes down to the genetics, and, people just need to understand what is going on here. These people are taking these children now so they can release them back into the community and infect us now. And some of these people that give us grief in the so-called conscious community, for all we know, some of these are those that were released back in the community, behaving emotional and going off for no apparent reason and creating debates where there should be none because maybe they're Manchurian candidates. We don't know who these people are that are creating all this dissension amongst us as a people. But we do know or should know they don't like us like that. Why? They are jealous of us. They've always been jealous of us. It's like, why are they so special? What made the Creator give them so much? Who the hell are they? They haven't figured, they didn't know it in 1915. They don't know it today. All they know is they're still angry with us because we have it all and they had nothing, and everybody comes from all over the world to claim to be us, to steal our birthright because everything was in abundance in the Americas. We had more of everything here on the continent called the America than anywhere else in the world, including Africa.
Yeah.
I'm not having a problem with our people. I have part Chinese, we got all kind of stuff in our stock now. So.
Oh, yeah, believe that.
And Sister Yaffa had the phone muted. That brother you were speaking of was Emmett Till, by the way.
Emmett Till.
Emmett Till. They beat him to death. Beat him to death. He was a child. These people are the same people that five of their men will jump on a female, jump on a child, and that is not racism. Those are people that behave like, for lack of better words, savages. That's what you call bullies. That's what you call a dog pack mentality. Now, they're not all like that. Of course, not every single one of them is bad, like not every single one of us is good. I'm not going to try to put everybody in a blanket. Right. I'm just simply saying, if you understand the culture, stop calling the behavior racism. Call the behavior what it is. You're rude. You're cruel. Right. You have no training. Your mom gave you no manners. You're a bully. You're a serial rapist. You're a serial killer. Just call them what they are. Stop giving them racism as an excuse. Well, go ahead. Next call. Thanks for your question.
All right. Thank you, sisters. Appreciate it.
And thanks for calling, brother.
Keep learning.
Peace.
Was that it? Are there any additional questions?
And that's all that's all the callers that we're holding at right then, Sister Yaffa. And for the listeners, you can contact Sister Yaffa. Her website is http://Yaffa Bey. That's YAFFABEY.com/.
Now, let me, since we have no questions, let me give you guys a couple of words because...
Oh, we do. We have a caller. Just in, Sister Yaffa. That's 267. Okay. You want to take that right now? Area code 267 caller?
Sure.
Okay.
I guess I have to get to these questions. I wanted to get into the Declaration of Nationalities and all this kind of stuff. But I guess I can do it.
Okay, we got 20 more minutes. Friday, Thursday shows are necessary, sis, but you be the judge. Caller for 267, you're on the air.
Yes, hi.
Hi.
My name is Kim.
Hi, Sister Kim. How are you this evening?
All right, you. I'd like to thank
Good, thank you. I'm well.
For the information. Yes. I'd like to thank Yaffa Bey for the information. I'm learning a lot. And I just have a question about, I keep hearing about a Jewish conspiracy. I just want to know if she has any information on that.
The Jewish conspiracy is not a Jewish conspiracy. There are people that are called Jews that are, but for those that are biblically inclined, there are those that are not, that call themselves Jews and are not, but do lie. Revelations 2:9 and Revelations 3:9. They're the synagogue of Satan, meaning they are minions for the church. And they're, for the most part, the same thing that Hitler was, which was a minion for the church. The Nazi agenda was always about the promotion of Christianity and this, what they think is superiority, or so they say, so they can get access to more children. And these Europeans that are siding with this whole, it's all about being white, you better think again, because they want your children too. They're into children, they're into rituals, and if you forgot, you better remember. But a lot of the people that are currently calling themselves Jewish are really Nazis that escaped the Holocaust trials. When they started murdering all these people in so-called Germany and absconding with the wealth of these people that are called Jews, for the most part, the people that they were murdering in Nazi Germany were melanin-rich people, that people are identified today as so-called black. Now, when they would kill somebody that was what you call white, or what people think is a so-called white Jewish-looking individual, that was because either the individual was some sort of a birth defect type, or they were openly homosexual, or they were, for lack of better words, what they would consider a nigger lover. Now, even there, they were taking the hair of those individuals and they were scalping the people and using the hair to make blankets. You can do that with bushy hair and nappy hair. You can't really do that with just straight hair. So they were making blankets out of the hair, and they were taking our children, taking the babies and skinning them to make like gloves and stuff with the skin of the children, and frequently they would skin the children alive. A lot of the people, most of the people that were Holocaust victims were people that looked like you in Nazi Germany. Now, after they murdered these people and a small number of Europeans that were connected to, and the other ones they were killing were what you call half-breeds or mixed breeds. But one of the things that they did is, when it was all said and done, and they were getting ready to be brought up on criminal war crimes charges, a lot of them were secreted away from persecution by trial by the church, the United States Corporation, which worked for the church, and there's a big difference between the United States and America. And they left and were hidden and given new names in the United States and other places around the world. They took on the names of the people the victims that they murdered. They took on their names and identities of the people that they murdered, and now they pass themselves off as Jews when they're not. A lot of the people that's why they call them Ashkenazis. They're Nazis. Ashkenazi Jew, ask any Nazi that's a Nazi Jew. They're Nazis passing themselves off as the autochtons or aboriginal melanin-rich people that they were murdering there. That's the conspiracy. That's the big secret. These individuals were Nazis, war criminals that got away by stealing the identity of the people that they murdered. Am I muted again? Is everybody there? Can anybody hear me?
I can hear you just fine, Sister Yaffa, and
hear me.
I didn't know if you were finished with that response with the caller. Yaffa.
She didn't ask an additional question. Yes.
Well, there's also some comments coming from the chat room. It was someone said, Sister, can Dr. Bey speak on all ODL land? What's the best way to go about this? Thanks. And that is Dr. Mutwa's question.
The alloidial is kind of complicated because at one point they were giving the alloidials at the Bureau of Land Management, and I'm submitting that when we started waking up and wanting it, probably when they shut it down, because they're notorious for that, shutting stuff down. When we start waking up and getting a clue about how to do a thing. But the alloidials were basically anybody that got to a land and got on it and started setting it up. The Bureau of Land Management would give it to you, but let them tell it. They had to stop giving the land away because there was just too much of a rush for it or whatever the case may be, from what I recall. But there are people to this day that are still getting land, but it's only to a certain extent. Like they may let you have land so that you can mine for gold on it. They'll give you the mineral rights to the land, but they won't give you the land. But the land belongs to us anyway. I'm not sure how they can give away or sell any land, but that's one of the things they did. They were notorious for that, too. When they got here, they would run people off of their lands at gunpoint. But, you know, they've never been an honorable people. I don't think we're going to be able to do a lot with the alloidials, but I'm not the one. You guys will want to talk to another scholar. Y'all need to try to find Sister Valera for things like that. I think that's one of her specialties is the alloidial things on the land. Different scholars are great for different things. You know what I'm saying? And I'm just somebody who knows something about words. I wouldn't even go into the being a scholar thing, but, you know, if I can get a chance to, I'll and I'm trying to see, 15 minutes, is that enough time for me to go into the declaration stuff, or should I just give you guys?
I don't know, because you have another, well, I do know. I don't think so, because you have another caller from the 845.
Come on with the caller.
All right. Greetings, caller. You're on the air from 845. How you doing this evening?
Oh, how are you guys?
Oh, we're doing good. Hey, Brother Eastside.
My first time listening to your show, and your history's on point.
Well, thank you.
Hello?
It's good to hear that somebody thinks so, because I'm getting tired of being called a quack.
Nah, your history's on point. Everything you say is true. Well, I'm just giving a shout-out to y'all. I'm just saying, good show, and keep it up.
Thank you. I appreciate your call.
right, Brother Eastside and listeners, you can hear Brother Eastside on Higher Frequency Radio Saturday nights at 11 o'clock EST. Tune in. Okay, so if you could go on.
Oh, I thought you said there was more than one caller. Okay.
Just that one.
Huh? Hello? Am I out again? Can you guys hear me? Oh, God, I think I got hung up on again. I don't hear anything. Hello? Hello? Dang. Did somebody mute me on the switchboard or something? Nova.
Okay, Sister Yaffa, I apologize for that. I just had to go and tend to the children for a moment.
Oh, please tell me that everybody couldn't hear me saying that. Wow. I'm thinking that I'm off the air again.
No,
okay.
You're not off the air.
Oh, wow. All right. Let me give you guys some of these people that I perceive as scholars, and certainly I'm not going to get at everybody because there are many, many scholars in the melanin-rich community. It depends on what thing it is you're looking at. Oh, you know what? I forgot to give you guys the rest of this Roman Catholic Church thing. I'm going to give you guys a couple of words to look up when you get an opportunity. Everybody has heard about psychopaths and sociopaths. Now, a psychopath is someone that has a mental disease. They're mentally ill or unstable. They're amoral and antisocial behaviored. Those are the people that are currently misruling everybody. They're also what I consider sociopaths. A sociopath, or someone that's sociopathic, is antisocial or sexually deviant with a psychopathic personality. Now, you know me. I have a tendency to break words down, even beyond that. I was looking it up one day and breaking this stuff down. I'm like, okay, what are you really saying? So I looked up this word, pathic. There's a word called pathic, and it's spelled P-A-T-H-I-C, pathic, sociopathic, psychopathic. Now, pathic is a catamite, C-A-T-A-M-I-T, and that's what the Catholics or the cataholics are all about, bringing everyone down because they want to get access to catamites. Now, a catamite is a male that submits to the crime against nature, or more importantly, a catamite is a boy that is kept for pederastic purposes. That is what the church is all about. And remember, the Roman Catholic Church, or the Church of Rome would be a better way of putting it, is the seat and foundation of all Christianity. They are the head of all Christian churches, all Christianity, including the so-called Baptists, or the people that are what they call Methodists, and the ones that were protesting, or the Protestants. And again, that catamite is C-A-T-A-M-I-T-E. Now, what people need to comprehend is the heads of these churches are now, and have always been, brought up on complaints about their behavior with people's children, but especially with people's little boys. The reason a lot of these people cannot do anything about it is because the Roman Catholic Church, though it's the smallest country on the planet, it is like the most powerful country on the planet, and certainly one of the most wealthy countries on the planet, and you cannot bring a clergy, bishop, priest, whatever of the Roman Catholic Church under charges unless the Roman Catholic Church gives you permission to go after them because they are their own country. They will release them if they want to, but what they do is when the complaints start coming out, they move the priest somewhere else and put him over other people's children so they can continue to do what they do. This is the whole agenda. It's always been the agenda, and it's going to always be the agenda. These people are not going to change, but what they're trying to do now is get control, and a lot of people think that some of these men in black are the government. And I'm going to say this to people. A lot of these people are nothing more than mercenaries for the church, and their craziness and their sociopathicology and their psychopathicology because they want to get a bunch of catamites or create a bunch of catamites. That's what it's about. And they started this mess with people that look just like them. That's one of the reasons why those people ran away. And now our people are so stuck in it because we don't know the origins of it. We don't know the history about it. We don't know what the words are about. We don't know what these things mean. But these individuals are notorious for damaging your children. When they damage your children, then these children are released into society and they become a bane in society. And they start spreading behaviors that make everybody crazy because they are not sane. They are sociopathic and psychopathic. Matter of fact, there was one of my brothers in Georgia brought to my attention this show, and I don't really watch it, TV, but I had to turn it on because he was like, Yaffa, are you watching V this week? The V something about extraterrestrials or whatever. That's the first time I've ever seen the show was that particular night. And it was all about the extraterrestrial meeting the Pope and the bishops that were the heads of church in Rome. It was straight dropping it, straight up. Now, if people do not comprehend who these people are and what their agenda is when they start running through talking about men in black, these very people that are certain places you go, they're running around here with all this black on like any other Nazi soldier with their craziness. They are running around with they're in plainclothes cars. They have no badges on, nothing identifiable, no name tags, no numbers, nothing that even identifies who they are. We assume that these people are the government. I'm saying these people are not the government. The government was infiltrated a long time ago. Now, remember, to overthrow the United States government through acts of treason is a crime, but it is, according to the United States Constitution, it is only a crime if the overthrow or act of treason is one that is overt for everybody to see, and there has to be 3 witnesses to testify to it. Otherwise, no one can be brought up on those charges. What happened with the so-called United States and the federal government that was supposed to be erected so that anytime there was a dispute between us, the melanin-rich empire that was found here, and them, the infiltrators or usurpers that came here, anytime there was a conflict between us, it was supposed to be resolved at the federal level. But because they let the Catholics sneak in with their mercenaries and their Jesuits and their Masons or whatever you guys want to call these verbiages, Illuminatis, all the same stuff. Because these people were able to get into the agency or organization, because agency really means Vatican, when they got into the organization that was considered the corporation or the government, what happened is they overthrew it from inside. And now these people are getting away with murder, and nobody seems to know who they are, and nobody seems to know how to stop them because these infiltrators look like them, they look like us, they look like females, they look like males. Some of them are gay, some of them are straight, some of them are Christian, some of them are Moorish American, some of them are Islamic, some of them are African American, and they're all in it. And their whole objective is to always make sure that, one, the melanin-rich people of this empire do not unify as a corroborate and try to raise up, and 2, that these individuals that belong to here do not unify with the people that ran here for solace and get together because we can probably boot them all out on their backside. But it's difficult when a person here or a person there wakes up. All they do is go and take them out. They just go kill them off. You'll find out, you'll hear, as a matter of fact, the federal judge, I don't know if I mentioned, I'm going to tell you guys this. Everybody talked about, and I got to say this real quickly before we close, everybody talked about this representative in Arizona that was murdered. And they talked about the 9-year-old girl that was born on 9/11 that was murdered. Distraction. This was a hit on the federal judge. What a lot of people are not aware of, and they didn't talk about him much, and I'm going to tell you this, if they had talked about him much, people would have woke up and saw it for what it was. Because when I found out about him, it wasn't until the next day, and I was like, oh, this was a hit on him. It turns out that the federal judge that was murdered in Arizona was the last Article III judge seated on the bench. He was the last Article III judge left standing. And he is the individual, and this was brought to my attention by one of my master researchers in Chicago. He was the individual that blocked the current president, Obama, and his administration from stealing all of the money out of the Social Security pot. They were getting ready to steal the money out of Social Security, and he stopped it. He blocked it. He was a problem for them, so they took him out. He was the last Article III judge. He stopped them from stealing all the money from Social Security, and now that he is dead and out of the way and nobody talks about him because they're talking about the recovery of the representative and they're talking about the 9-year-old, but now that he's gone, the next time they bring it up on the agenda, he won't be in the way to interfere the next time so they can steal all of the money. I stopped there because it's almost time for the show to end. And I guess I'll give you guys this information about declaring nationality and stuff next Thursday. And the list of scholars that I want to give. So you know what, on that note, take us out with either Sun Goddess or Love to the World. I do appreciate all of the listeners, that called in, that listened, the people that called in with the inquiries and questions. Thank you for